And good afternoon, TGIF, everybody. It is Friday. Woo, been a week, been a big week over here. I hope it's been a good week for you all. Today, we're going to get straight to the heart of the battlefield. Not the one they show you on the fake news, but the one that's being fought behind the scenes. This battle, we've all been fighting behind the scenes now for a long time. Every single one of you is part of this fight. And I think at this point, as I just got off the phone earlier with the lawyer for the gentleman's father that I interviewed the other day, Ratko Mladic, known by the mainstream media as the butcher of Bosnia. But I think what we learned was that he really wasn't the butcher at all. And there was a lot of fake news at his trial, lies in translation by his interpreter, and other nefarious information that has been pressed into the annals of history, but that people like Julian Assange even recognize as fake news. And we're going to revisit that some more in detail. But this is part of it, right? This is all of us coming together and doing the digging and realizing what the truth is. And increasingly, that truth is just hitting us right in the face. It is right in front of us. We are clearly living in a time when the American people are waking up to something deeper, something really structural. Something needs to be changed. And these intelligence agencies have turned inward, right? They're protecting their own. They're circling the wagons right now. Bureaucracies that serve themselves instead of we the people. And a system that has drifted so far from the Constitution, it no longer even pretends to represent you. But here's the shift. People are no longer asking for permission. We are peacefully non-complying. We are organizing and we're stepping into the leadership roles that we're supposed to. It's our civic duty. We're commanded by God, and our Constitution protects that right. People, you guys, me, friends, and our guest on the show today, we're all building parallel structures rooting in truth, accountability, and what I would call and what is recognized as lawful authority. And nowhere is this more urgent than when it comes to the most vulnerable amongst us, our children. Across this country, families are being torn apart under systems that operate without due process, without evidence, and often without any accountability. But we Americans were pushing back. That's what we do at our foundations, American Made Foundation and American Made Action. We push back hard in a big way. Today's guest represents lots of fronts in that fight. Once spent decades in the intelligence apparatus, and now is helping Americans organize at the local level to restore control. So join me right now as we get ready to bring in this incredible man. Our first guest, Jeffrey Prather, is a retired special operations soldier. He's a former Defense Intelligence Agency officer and DEA agent who has shifted his mission towards restoring America from the ground up through faith, local action, and what he calls Team America. Jeffrey, it is great to have you. So pleasant to see you. Whoopsie, why aren't you popping in the stage here? There you are. Pleasant to see you on this afternoon. I hope the stream is going out because I'm actually streaming on my cell phone since the Beast system is down at the moment.
Well, thanks for having me back, Ann. It's great to see you again. It's been a long time.
It has been a long time. And for those that may not remember you from previous shows or maybe not have seen you on your show, you've gone from the intelligence insider to a local organizer, something that is really near and dear to my heart because I've stepped back from doing what I would consider a big show broadcasting daily and focusing more on areas of influence that we can get activated. And that's why we started these foundations, American Made, to have an arm to actually educate people, but also an arm to engage the people and fight back with lawfare, legalese, legislation, and then, of course, taking action in the community and helping people that have been negatively impacted and working with other organizations like yours, Team America, for which we have recently connected with a gentleman, Scott, who is so excited that we're doing the show today. So this is what I want to talk about, the broader impact that someone from your background can relay into what we would consider, we the people, and helping us organize so that we can, really comprehend we are the government.
Well, you really said it in your opening introduction so eloquently and efficiently. And it was great for you to connect with Steve Corey, who is my Iowa state team leader. And because of my background in Army Special Forces, where you don't call for reinforcements, you build reinforcements, and you build them from the civilian community, and also my background in the Defense Intelligence Agency, that has really helped me build Team America. And very similar to what you're doing. I'm glad we're working together because you're such a fabulous patriot and studette, because you've been out on the border and down in the Panama jungle long since I stopped going down there. I'm now too old for all of that, but salute you for doing all of that. But Team America is simply patriots, like-minded patriots, relying on God and each other instead of corrupt government in DC, just like we stopped relying on corrupt government in Britain. And it's all, and we don't advocate anything illegal, immoral, unethical, or violent, although the government does continually, openly. But what we do is we got to start from the ground up. I was inside, DEA, DIA, all these institutions. We got to start from the ground up, which is exactly what we're doing. And what I say is St. Martin them. The long-term strategic mission of Team America is to raise, influence, and inspire next generations to infiltrate these corrupted agencies, because they're not going away. Trump is giving them a bigger budget, giving the FBI a bigger headquarters, and CIA is out of control, and they simply don't respond to congressional inquiries. I actually knew the DEA representative who had the congressional inquiry job, and they just ignore him. They just don't answer to him. So we're gonna this is a intergenerational strategic mission, and I think it parallels what we saw with the fallen Roman Republic becoming a Roman Empire, the fallen American Republic becoming an American empire, which is also failing too now, almost exactly for the same reasons that Rome failed. But Rome was not conquered, but co-opted by Christian martyrs. I think Charlie Kirk is the new one of that. But we are St. Martining them. St. Martin, I have a chaplaincy, christchaplaincy.com. And St. Martin was a Roman aristocrat raised by his father, who was an equite, which is right below senator. And he said, well, you're going into the corps, you're signing up with the legions. And he said, yes, Dad. But he played with the children of the slaves in his household who were Christians, and he became Christian. And these kids were not corrupt and cynical like we see the elites kids are today. And so he eventually became Christian, and he eventually became a Roman soldier. But a Christian inside the legion. So St. Martining them is exactly our long-term mission. We have short-term tactical missions, as well. But the long-term new strategic mission of Team America is to raise, inspire, and infiltrate these younger generations into these corrupt institutions and eventually take back America. That's what I'm training my girls to do as well.
That's fantastic. In fact, Earl Jackson says the Praetorian Guard, AKA the deep state, we sort of have to reverse Praetorian Guard the entire thing. And we're just going to execute the same plan that they've been executing against us for centuries. We're going to infiltrate, and we have to take it back. And we've had some wins. 2016 seemed to be a win. Then we lost in 2020. I think that was the plan. And then, 2024 has left a lot of people saying, well, when are we going to get our accountability? Where are the arrests, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera? And it would seem that, this is a daunting task for one man, and who may not have all the pieces that he needs, or he might have all the pieces and is being pressured other ways. But at this point, it doesn't matter what's going on in that administration. What matters is what's happening at the local level. Because as we've seen, and I use this example all the time, and my audience knows this, Collier County, Florida, stood up a resolution and then an ordinance, and they made Collier County, where Naples is situated, a Bill of Rights sanctuary county, kind of like the sanctuary cities for the illegals, but they made it a Bill of Rights sanctuary county, which was, they were really just highlighting, bolding, and underscoring the Bill of Rights that protects us from tyranny coming out of anywhere. And they were really pointing the message at Washington, D.C. This all happened in 2021 during COVID, and it was there to stop the jabs and to stop the mandates. And it was incredibly effective. So this is what I'd like to see happen in our state. Around the country, frankly. But more importantly, it's getting back to Team America, where you have these local chapters like you do, like Moms for America, Moms for Liberty, all these organizations. We need to collaborate. We need to come together, sort of that family first coalition that we're establishing, and work with other organizations, not under, so who cares who gets the credit? If you write a legislative bill and it gets passed, I don't care if it's you, me, or the next guy. Let's do it so we can protect the family unit. Let's do it so we can protect our sovereignty. Let's do it so we don't get sprayed in the skies every day. These are the things that we need to focus on, because the real battlefield, frankly, Jeffrey, isn't is the real battlefield now is local. It's not the federal fight anymore because that ship has sailed. Those people are so corrupt. I hope that thing just drains itself and they all go down. I don't care who's standing in DC when it happens at this point.
Yeah, that's so true. I graduated from the FBI Academy in 1990 because the DEA Academy wasn't even thought of yet, much less built. And my old friend Ed Morales, the FBI agent who's the hero of the Miami gunfight, a real FBI agent back in the day, says, I wouldn't even talk to the FBI. And the same thing with the CIA today is really important to point out that it's not just, like the politicians say, oh, it's the guys at the top. It is really trickled down via osmosis to at least the group supervisor, ASAC, Assistant Special Agent in Charge, and SAC level, and COS, Chief of Station with the CIA. It is terrible, and they cannot be trusted at all. So again, yeah, we have to do it from the ground up. And Team America, really, because of my intelligence background, we actually don't have much public-facing stuff. We typically work with and through other organizations. Not that we're not running operations all the time. It's that we don't want to really have a high level of signature,
Right.
and we don't. And so that's really, so working with your folks is great, and Steve has done a great job of that. There are states such as Iowa and Oklahoma where we are pretty openly working with legislatures because it's what I call friendly territory. But there's other states such as New York where, of course, we are way behind enemy lines. And so our approach is much more clandestine there.
Well, it has to be. I mean, using the approach that you're doing in Team America with the decentralized, citizen-led local network, it really isn't partisan, is it, Jeffrey? It's totally about community-based, focusing on areas like, I guess you guys really focus on preparedness, right? Perhaps rendering mutual aid in case of emergency. And constitutional governance has really gone out the window, even at the local municipal level. And then, of course, the municipal level isn't focused on local resilience. That's a big problem because let's just look at what's happening in the Middle East right now with the Strait of Hormuz, and now we're sending ships to the Straits of Malacca. We are seeing, and Panama had an explosion at the canal a couple of days ago, maybe last week sometime. The infrastructure that moves supplies around the world, food importantly, is under attack. And we are under attack in any number of ways, from our skies to our air, to our water, to our land, to our information. Everything we know is under attack. Our health is under attack. It really puts such an emphasis on what General Flynn has always said: local action, right? National impact. And it's making, with your organization, loosely affiliated with each other as it is. It's not a professional 501c3 type organization, but it's a concept of Team America is we take back that local resilience and we make sure that we render aid to our neighbor should catastrophe strike us. And we focus on constitutional governance when our municipalities fail us because they are taking the corporate handout and they're showing favoritism to somebody over we the people. This is, something I really want to drill down on with you, because an American-made foundation and American-made action, we are going to do a closed loop. We're building that closed loop system right now just for Child Protective Services, so that when you and your team, or Pete Chambers and his team, or Jordan Mason and his team go, kicking doors in and rescuing children, those children need a safe place to go. CPS, children coming from across the border or that are currently here that have had their parental rights due process violated and the children are taken. We've written legislation that right now is already being introduced into the federal area, into Congress next week. We've made it statutorily adaptable per all 50 states so that we can raise that threshold raise the threshold of difficulty for them to remove a child. In other words, 95% of these children right now we know don't qualify legally to be taken. So we're making that threshold so high that we reduce the intake by 95%. And you know what that does, Jeffrey? The Title IV-E funding that comes out of Washington, D.C.'s Social Security Administration gets reduced by 95%. Now you're putting teeth, you're defunding, defanging, and all those parasitic organizations that leech financially off the separation of children and families with zero financial incentive to ever reunify. They go away because there's no money. Now we have the system where we have legislation, we have litigation. We're doing our own lawfare against these organizations of CPS, DCF, the judges, the law enforcement, the counselors, anybody involved in unlawfully taking a child is going to get sued into an oblivion in a federal court. And then we're going to provide a safe house for these families. So it's really a closed system, and it takes away the state money and it just puts it back into the private, which is where it belongs. We the people, Team America, resilience at the local level to help families.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And it goes all the way from the Catholic Bishops Association taking that money and therefore engaging in child trafficking to the Hebrew Immigration Assistance Society. All of those are umbrellas under all of those organizations. And parallel, at the same time, we're trying to work at a county level, local, to put task forces together. And because I was on all these task forces, HIDA, high intensity drug trafficking, OCDF, organized crime drug trafficking, and they're all federally funded. And once you have local officers cross-deputized as federal agents, then they're really on the federal teat. And we got to get off the federal teat and stop taking that money totally. And so I'm really also advocating for local attorney generals or state or even county task forces to counter this and stop, signing up with the FBI, stop signing up with the DEA, because then you're under control. I think that's another really important point in this. And of course,
what about the sheriffs? What about county level sheriffs?
Oh yeah, of course, sheriffs are good. The thing you got to remember about sheriffs is sheriffs are politicians too, because they're elected officials, and therefore they're easily swayed. Everybody talks about the constitutional sheriff, but they're elected officials. They tend to become politicians. So if you have a countywide task force that has the police chiefs, has the sheriffs, and also should have chaplains in there, because again, we want to stay away from these corrupted religious organizations that are taking all these monies, which may or may not know about what they're doing. I think they do, but I think that is the positive alternative to getting out of the beast system as well. And I want to encourage everybody to continue to do that. We're working on that. So that's more of a tactical mission. The long-term strategic mission of Team America is intergenerational. The tactical mission is very much focused on anti-human trafficking, particularly child anti-human trafficking, and adding this piece of local task forces.
So in terms of, and if you can't answer this question, I appreciate why, but in terms of the child trafficking component, a lot of these kids end up in, they were foster care children. And that was made very clear in, believe it or not, former Secretary of State, Mike Pompeo, in the 2019 Trafficking in Persons Report. It's a yearly publication put out by the State Department. It talks about worldwide human trafficking. They actually singled out foster care homes as the #1 place for child predators to go and prey on children, to grab them and traffic them. So if you come across children that are trafficked, a lot of times they came from foster care. Where do you take them? Do you send them back into the system, or who do you work with? Or maybe don't name names. Do you work with other outside privately funded organizations to rehabilitate these children, get them home, get them into a safe place, and then try to reintroduce them into a real foster home?
Well, the first thing is if a team decides this is part of their tactical mission, and most of them do, it depends, because the mission is customized to the state. That is, the mission of Florida is not going to be the mission of Ohio, but they will share information. And I got to sing all their praises, because they're behind the scenes, they're volunteers. Very few of them are very open. I work them really hard. I require a lot, but they're very professional. But the first thing is to build rapport with local sheriffs, local police, see who is going to be sincere and have integrity, because eventually you're going to have to go to a law enforcement function there. Then look at if there are other local retired special ops guys that are doing that, liaise with them. If they're not, then build that structure yourself. And then also look at the local foster care programs. Of course, I myself come out of St. Joseph's Orphanage. I'm a product of rape. I was really blessed. I was recently kind of featured by the orphanage.
Wow.
So that's a very Yeah. So I don't know if you can see. Yeah, right up there is a plaque about St. Joseph's Orphanage that they gave me. But first is to build the personal rapport and relationships with people of integrity inside those institutions. It's all
Right.
about personal relationships. Then from there, then you can then is where the team would come back and maybe go to our headquarters operations officer and intelligence officer and say, here's what we've got. Now, how do we put this together? You got some help. And then we would just kind of advise them. There's no orders. They're not military guys. Everything is an advice. Everything is a suggestion. And so that's how we do it. And in some areas, like Florida, we are very successful, and they have integrated very well with different organizations that I don't want to name in particular.
Sure.
But down to tracking and surveillance and active training. And then oftentimes then, if you get onto some civilian law enforcement liaison training, you're developing rapport and relationships with the officials. And so later on, when something happens and when you got a kid or something there, then you are a known entity to them.
Right.
And that's very important. When you get a call in the middle of the night and there's a crisis, and I know Jeff already. I've been working with him. He's been coming to our classes. Yeah. Because obviously, the cops are going to, usually it's who calls the cops first is labeled as the victim. And good cops have a real good sense of friend and foe pretty quick.
Sure. Do you find that Team America does a lot in the school board area? Are they engaging in trying to get these school boards to clean up the pornography?
We definitely are. We've had a lot of success in that area.
By the way, Diamond DC says Team Iowa in the house, just so you know.
Oh, good. No, I see a bunch of Iron Squirrel, Earl Jackson. Those are definitely listeners as well. Iron Squirrel does a great intel summary I often rely on. Yeah, we certainly have done a lot of work with school boards and continue to do that. And then also and it's interesting because that mission then ties into our strategic intergenerational mission, which is to influence next generation. So you should start with your own kids, but if you're not with your own kids, then where are you going to influence and inspire other kids? Well, in schools, or in after school organizations, Trail Life America, for example, some of the states are highly involved with, which is a good alternative to the Boy Scouts, which have been corrupted. So the tactical missions tie into the strategic mission, and oftentimes the states will work together and supplement each other in this, which we're really trying to do, because we're in every state, including Alaska and Hawaii, but we don't have organized teams. And this is something I've tried to really emphasize to people is you can't do this on an individual effort. You have to build a team.
Right.
And that means you got to have a personnel person, an intelligence person, an operations person, and hopefully you got people in different regions or counties so that you can then really become effective. Yeah. That's tough. That's what I ask is a lot, but they're doing great. We've been around for quite some time. And by the way, you can join Team America at jeffreyprather.com.
That's right. And we're going to put that up there again in a second. I do want to talk to you after the show about who I can connect with here in Florida. And I want to brief you on all the different stuff we're doing that we will be making announcements out soon. But I'm very excited for what the foundation's doing, because Dr. Zelenko, who asked me to start his foundation, the Zelenko Freedom Foundation, as we all recall, he brought hydroxychloroquine to the world, and President Trump read his letter and talked about getting a letter from a doctor from New York during the early days of COVID and hydroxychloroquine. And that's when Fauci about pushed Trump off the podium and said, we got to have some double-blinded placebo-controlled trials, knowing full and well that the NIH did that in 2003, and chloroquine was a really prophylaxis and treatment for coronavirus, but I digress. Zelenko was my friend, and we started his foundation we were supposed to be funded by the good people at ZStack, but there was some shakeup over there, and we didn't receive the funding that we were supposed to. Although I'm hearing that things are getting turned around, and that will be forthwith. But in the meantime, we've been very fortunate with some other donors that have been helping us behind the scenes get a much bigger project off the ground. Something that I haven't really been able to talk about yet. But it will be something that's going to be very significant in this space. And I'm very, very excited about it. And I would love to coordinate with somebody locally from Team America, because for the reason, Jeff, you just said, we need to know who we're dealing with. This is not a business that you can just go in the yellow pages or Google somebody and go, oh, this guy does that. Okay. No, it's really a who you know. And we're collaborating with the Flynns at America's Future and what they're doing. We're going to go get certified by Boz and Tina. We're collaborating with Doc Pete Chambers. The Piece of Heaven folks have asked me to come out and speak. Mary Flynn's on their board as well. So these are, some things I think that are really critical. You have to know with whom you're dealing, and there has to be a level of trust. Jordan Mason up in South Carolina is doing incredible work. And, these are the people that we want to continue to collaborate and expand that network. So having somebody on the ground here in Florida would be fantastic.
We do. I'll connect you after the show. We have a team in Florida. In fact, it was one of the first teams. It was a really huge team. And, then there was what always happens, is there's a betrayal, and then you got to recover from that. So it's been through several iterations, but it's a very robust team that is very integrated. And I'll certainly connect you after the show. And since you mentioned President Trump, I just want to say that I want people to notice that I've been complimenting President Trump lately after I've been very, very critical of him. Because
let me hear the compliments, because I haven't heard those yet. I was looking through your channel. I was like, ooh, he's really coming down on Trump. What's going on? No, it's all good. Listen, we're allowed to criticize. That's our job.
It's our duty. It's our duty.
Absolutely.
As Christians, and our right as citizens.
That's right.
And he's not the Messiah. There's this ever-Trumper cultist group, and I pointed that out. And any real Christian has a duty to do that, I think.
That's right.
But I really want to say this, because the point here is part of the plan is to divide the patriots. And
That's
so
right.
you can divide the patriots through the MAGA movement. And so I want to note that I have been complimenting him on President Trump and Commander-in-Chief Trump's restraint in putting troops on the ground in Iran, which will be a disaster. It's not that we can't do it. It could be something like Normandy. But Normandy, I think we had to do. We don't. And also it doesn't accomplish anything. And we won't be able to hold it. And I've had on a lot of experts. I just had a young Special Forces soldier who just retired in 24, real sharp guy who agreed with me on that. I've had old intel dinosaurs like me. We've all said the same thing on that. And I think that's why so many are being fired. But I think that I don't think President Trump wants to do that. I think he's pushed back from that. I think the Israelis are pushing him to do it all the time, but I think he keeps pushing back. And I just want to compliment him on his restraint. And they took for example, the other day, for those of us who were dialed into the military situation, the 31st BU Marine Expeditionary Unit on the USS Tripoli is a unique expeditionary unit because the Tripoli does not have a well deck. That is, the Marines cannot go ashore by water and establish a beachhead, which is traditional Marine Corps role. They have to be airlifted in by Osprey or Hilo, and they actually just seized a Iranian container ship, I believe it was, and that's great. I'm totally fine with that. That's a limited role that they can pull off. I don't want to see them going into Karga Island or on the cliffs there. And so I'm praising, and I think everybody can. Why? So that we build rapport among the patriots that we have been divided purposefully against this. That's my point there. Oops, I can't hear you.
Sorry about that. I love the point. I'm glad you brought it up. I think it's important that people know that, first of all, it's okay to criticize the president. I can't stand the people online that are absolute sycophants that will, no matter what he says, it's always right. I'm allowed to have a different opinion. And I still support this president, and I'm sure you do too. Why? Because we need him to be successful. If he's not successful, we're screwed. I mean, it just makes
Right.
the job that you and I are doing that much harder. And anybody else that's really trying to be a part and play a part in their civic duty, which we all have. I mean, just because you're born here doesn't mean you just get a free pass. No, you're here and you were blessed with a great country. You really should be doing everything you can to preserve the greatness of this country as we watch it slip away. So, with the bureaucracy coming out of DC and the machine that's up there, that's why Team America is so important. It gets right down to the heart of local action and focusing in your neighborhood to create that resilience and to have sovereignty, to have constitutional governance, and to hold those people accountable for when they don't, when they misbehave. I want to actually pull your website up here, Jeffrey, because I'd like to show people on there where they can actually join Team America. Let's see here. Where does this actually, I'm sorry, wrong page.
That's my Patreon. That's great too.
Oh yeah, sorry, but I know we'll go back there. We'll go back there. But where is the Team America? Oh, by the way, there's our picture. There we are, Jeffrey.
And you were always so gracious. You really helped me so much, getting started in this, and I'm so thankful for that. You are a very gracious lady. But up at the top of the page, I believe on the right corner.
Oh, right there. You mean that big gold button?
Yeah. Yes.
There it is.
And also, if you haven't watched the Taken video, you should definitely watch that. But there's where you can sign up right there. What'll happen is that goes. This is my public-facing website. That will then go to our personnel officer. And if the person is from a state that has a team, that's pretty easy. The team leader or the personnel officer will then reach out and establish contact. Very quickly, we will ask two things. We'll ask you to get a Proton email and get on Signal, because all Team America conversations are by Proton and Signal. It's not that those are secure, no comms are secure, but we then go anonymous. So you can be anonymous. So are they looking at you? Yes, but they don't necessarily know who you are. How do I know that? Because I've been on the other side of this. I know exactly how this works. So for example, a Team America email would read, or a Signal would read from FM, STL, AZ. And so that tells me it's the state team leader for Arizona.
Okay.
And then I don't know who that is. And if I was ever called in, then they would say to me, well, who is that? And I'm like, well, I don't know. Well, why don't you know? Well, because I built it that way. So I can testify clearly. Now, some of them, of course, I know, like Steve in Iowa. But again, Steve's in friendly territory. I mean, besides me speaking there, he had a state senator speaking there. But it's designed, again, because I know people are going to feel, I got to sign something. That's the main thing, is people are afraid. And you've got to kind of develop a little bit of a special forces mindset, which is that there's always going to be bad guys in your group, always.
Yeah.
Okay. But if you are sincere and you really make friends, and how you make friends is you really sincerely care about that person, and you care about their family, and you care about their kids. That's what I always say when we go overseas, is we really like to make friends by developing real relationships. Like you and I, my family. You were concerned about hearing about the house and everything. It's not networking. It is building rapport through sincere relationships. If you can't make a friend, then you can buy a friend. That's what the CIA had to do after 9/11, just going with bags of money. But it's never that reliable. It's always better to make a friend than buy a friend. And that's what we do in Team America. Yeah, that's my Patreon page. Love people. If you want to see what I'm talking about, because I say a lot of outrageous things, but then I list everything. And you can do at the $5 level, you get created news. At the 15, you get special resources. At the 25, you get daily training videos in martial arts, native horsemanship, firearms, all kinds of different stuff. And then you can access my monthly online classes as well.
I think that's cool. Martial arts, we should all be better trained in self-defense. Relying on a gun is nice, but you hopefully don't have to make that your first line of defense. if at all possible. If at
Yes,
all possible.
as I always say, I have a handgun martial arts class that is on Patreon, and it's a martial art developed since 2009, so it's going strong. And the motto there is, "The gun is not the answer, you are."
That's right.
And the gun's a tool in a toolbox. That's all it is. And too many people think it is the first place they go. It's actually should be the last place. And most of the time, you won't shoot. Most of the time, you may draw, you may present, but you won't shoot. But typical, and I was a federal firearms instructor for decades. Too many times it's focused on shooting as opposed to not shooting.
Right. I want to shift gears. I want to go into the naughty Jeffrey. It appears that you had an issue with this post from President Trump, and you highlighted the fact that he subsequently deleted this post. I read your Substack. Do you want to give people the 30,000-foot flyby on your comments?
Well, my 30,000-foot view there of Substack is, and it was also a sermon I did, this is blasphemous for true Christians. And if you are a true Christian, not just a Christian in name only, you got to say something about that. So I did. And the modification where they put the demon up there, which I don't think he did, although he admitted he put the one post up, then he said he didn't. There's a lot of contradictions in what he's saying now, which is another story, another post I did where he's starting to look like, and I hate to say this, Biden in many ways, because it looks like, well, he says so many crazy things, we're just not going to pay attention to him. That is inoculation to evil, which we cannot put up with. But anyway, the point I made here was that the original post was put on Truth Social in February. And therefore, I've had a lot of critics and I've lost a lot of supporters because I've criticized him. And just like we said, it's our duty. It's our duty as Christians and our right as citizens. And we're actually supporting him more than somebody who just says, yeah, go ahead and walk off that cliff.
Sure.
Or go ahead and drive into that crowd of children or something. So what I said was, this is on Truth Social since February. Therefore, this cult-like group of ever-Trumpers who have replaced Trump, replaced Yeshua with Trump, I think originated on Truth Social. I wasn't saying that all MAGA supporters are cultists. I was saying I'm seeing some cultists, clear cultists. Whatever Trump does is fine. That's a cult. And it looks like it originated in Truth Social, and it looks like it was being supported. That's what I'm saying there. And of course, that is, I think, the part of the motive of Israel, Likud, Mossad, Netanyahu. Not everybody in Israel. There's a large sect of Orthodox who are against all of that. There's voices for rabbis who are like, Zionism is not Judaism, and we reject all this.
In fact, there was a clip. Somebody was. You may have seen it. A gentleman in New York sought out some. He went to an Orthodox temple and was talking to some of the Orthodox Jewish men around the outside of the temple, and one of the gentlemen engaged him in the interview, and he said, "Zionism is not Judaism." I mean, this was an Orthodox Jew who said it. And for those who don't know, Dr. Zelenko, my dear friend who passed, was an Orthodox Jew, as is his brother. And they deeply care about Israel, meaning the people of Israel, not this state government that was created, a synthetic country that was created by Zionists. And Michael Yon says this all the time, and it's really controversial, but he says Zionists want to kill the Jews, and he's not wrong. He's not wrong. So it's really, it's just the fact that we even have to have these conversations is just a sad state of how far we haven't come when it comes to just loving the human being next to you. We have a lot of issues still. We still have to get through. And I know there's some fanatical people on all sides, But this is where we are. And so it's again, I go right back to the local action, Team America. It's critical that your neighbor, you really are dialed into your community, because eventually you're going to have people try to move in your community. And you're looking in Texas at the radical Islamification of Texas, with mosques going up everywhere right underneath Abbott's nose. And what did he do about it? Zero. He took money from,
he's in on it. Yeah.
He's in on it.
Yes, definitely.
He's in on it. So it's
I'm so glad you brought that point up to let me clarify my point of view, because people have said Prather says that all MAGA are cultists, and that's not what I was saying. I was trying.
No, I know you're not saying that.
I'm
MAGA, but I'm not a cultist.
No, I was trying to point out something very important, because this is a clear shift, and I think this is again through the Greater Israel crowd, and that is a belief system. That is a religious belief system that is being engaged in. This is an extension of that. And from a warfare perspective, there's no more dangerous adversary than those who are fighting for religion, because it's a belief system. There's nothing you're going to change about that. It's not narcos for money. It's not political parties. It is their belief system that they're willing to fight, kill, and die for. And that's very important to point out, I think.
Is if we look at this war, and you put a Substack up about it, is Iran, the invasion thereof, was that an Israeli trap, or was this was Israel, I guess, behind the request to put boots on the ground, which President Trump did not follow through?
I think definitely. But I've looked at Iran's response. Again, as a military intelligence officer, this is my lane. I've been doing this a long time. And it's certainly, because what is America's interest in doing that? And I think Tucker Carlson has pointed this out very clearly, is there is no compelling American interest for what's being done there. You can sort of, I was against Venezuela too, and I work Venezuela, but you can make a much better case for Venezuela than you can for the Strait of Hormuz and Iran. And then but does that align with the Greater Israel Project? Well, it certainly does. So our national, if we're going to go to do military actions or go to war or something, it should be aligned with American interest. It shouldn't be aligned with any other country's interest, especially a country that we totally support that could not hold itself up without us, which is Israel. And the other part of that is, from a military point of view, and I'm not the only one saying this, there are more experienced guys than me saying this, it has become very clear that American intelligence, President Trump kind of ignored American intelligence. I've had Joe Kent on the show. Joe and I came from a former special, they talk about a special forces time, talk about a CI time, but in between he was in a tier 1 special missions unit that I was in the predecessor mission of. It's still the most secretive one out there. Sharp guy, honorable guy, certainly not a leaker by any means. That's ridiculous. Just trying to discredit the messenger so you can discredit the message, which I thought was very honorably delivered. But whether it's Gabbard, who I think is a pretty good DNI, or Kent, or any of these other, and I worked closely with the ODNI office when I was in, the same message is true. Is there is no real American interest here. The cost in blood would be catastrophic.
That's right.
And it doesn't open the straits, and we can't hold it. And there are certain countries, just simply because of the terrain, which then builds a certain type of human terrain. The physical terrain builds human terrain. That is, for example, Afghanistan, West Virginia, Kentucky, where I come from. My dad was a good hillbilly. Those people are very independent, and they're very feisty, and they're going to fight. The Highlands, same kind of people. The physical terrain determines the human terrain as well. And so you look
That's
at
right.
Iranian terrain. Anybody who looks at one of the first things I would look at as a intelligence officer for my special forces battalion, I'd look at the terrain and go, "Oh my God, sir, this
Yeah,
is going to be a disaster."
exactly. That's exactly right. Well, I'm glad you clarified that. I'm glad you clarified your position with President Trump. I hold similar position. I voted for him all 3 times. I want to see him successful. I've disagreed with him on some of the actions, but I can see benefits to some of the actions in terms of destruction of the financial world, which our system is dead anyway. It's got to get tossed. We need to restore sound money. President Trump believes in crypto. I don't. That's another difference of opinion. But you know what? I'm still allowed to have gold. Florida passed a law. Gold is now money here in Florida. I can use it to pay things. And I do believe that we're going to see gold backed dollars and gold backed crypto potentially. So I think this is all going to come out in the wash, but I will have nothing to do with crypto, particularly now that he signed the Clarity Act, because that's just another trap to get you right back into the system that you and I got out of. And I have no
Yes.
intention of having my spending habits, and any of my bank account balances sent to the IRS. They can pound sand. April 15th was my liberation day, and I'm open about it. And people need to wise up about what's really going on. In fact, Payman Matahedu, I was showing this earlier, was at my house. Folks, there are solutions to not be part of the federal system. Scott Bessent did a press conference the other day, talked about if you want more money, change your withholding. You can check the exempt box, people. That your company you work for just wants the paper that shows that you signed the W-4. That's it. They just want that. They'll send it to the IRS. They're just a withholding agent for the IRS. So let's see. Weiser just popped in here. He says, just joined. So I may have missed this. Does Europe have the ships and manpower to help police the strait, even if they wanted to? You want to answer that, Jeffrey?
Sure. They don't. NATO
Yeah.
is basically a paper tiger. Britain, who was the ruler of the seas, there's even songs about that, is no longer able to do that. And now they're coming around and saying, yeah, we'll help out. Initially, they said, you started it. Why should we get involved? Which is totally legitimate. And what's our interest in that? But no, they cannot handle this. And further, this asymmetrical war is really changing the face of warfare. For example, the carrier group, as you're welcome, the carrier group as a force to project naval and air and infantry force. That's what the Marines are. That's what you want to project power. You send a carrier group, then you got a little Air Force, you got a little Army there to put ashore, and that's how you projected power. That's over. The Iranians, through drone swarms, through submersible drones, through mines. Well, Strait of Hormuz isn't even international waters. That's a different subject. But the carriers have had to go back. And whether or not the Ford was a fire or a drone strike, which is more likely, I think, or a missile strike, the age of carriers as a naval force is ended. And I don't think the powers that be realize that at all, which is that's a whole restructuring of what's going on is going to happen. This is even more important of a strategic change than Ukraine, I think.
Yeah. It's funny, when I was in Panama with Michael, we were briefed up by a Latin American expert. And he was very clear that, the Iranians have given Venezuela a real leg up with the drone army. And, they've got a very big drone army in Venezuela, I believe, not all Iranian drones. And so I don't think our federal government really took that into account when it came to what we're doing. Yes, we have other weapons, and I saw what happened in Venezuela, but I also believe that was a handshake behind the scenes because the Russian defense systems failed. Okay. I think the shift's happening. I think Xi's taking Asia and Southern Pacific. I think Putin will take Eurasia, Russia and Eurasia. Russia and Asia, Russia and Europe, excuse me. I can't speak today. And then Trump's going to be the oligarch over here in the Western Hemisphere. And Michael Yan just sent me a text this morning. He thinks Brazil and Argentina are going to come to blows. I could see that happening. Absolutely. So I think we still have a lot more shakeup to do. People are really pushing. The world is on fire for people who want to be free. And we have to do everything we possibly can, which is why I wanted to have you on, because I wanted my audience to see someone who came from the belly of the beast in the intelligence community before it went totally sideways. And you've now manifested yourself into someone who wants to help your fellow man, and you do it honestly, you're a chaplain and you're giving back to your community and you're organizing people. Obama's done it, right? Organize for America, OFA. But you're not even doing it under the auspices of a 501. You're doing it just loosely under a name so that people feel like they belong to something and have, the ability to learn from one another and go and implement. And I think it's just absolutely fantastic, which is why I'm going to talk to you after the show and get that name here in Florida.
Yeah, well, thanks for all those kind words. And I think it's working. I think because we're seeing a strategic shift that's really important. The change in TPUSA since Charlie was assassinated is
dramatic,
failing and fading. And then what we saw with the IDF soldier who took off the giant crucifix head of Yeshua there, and Israel actually apologized. They never apologize. For them to apologize shows that they have lost the initiative in the psychological operations war for American and Judaism, Zionism.
And all those American influencers who've taken the Israeli government money, shame on you. They're always the ones that never get banned. They're the ones that get boosted. It's really quite remarkable when Brad Parscale, what a disappointment he turned out to be. I mean,
that's
really.
So funny because yesterday I had on the Dankster, a long 2-hour Prather point, and
cool.
He showed how everybody, Laura or Larry Loomer and Brad Pascal, calling Tucker or Candace foreign agents, they are actually foreign agents because the guy running their thing is the Salem Media guy. So
Salem Media. Don't even get me the name of a company that has a witch behind it. No, I'm sorry. The Salem witch. I just it's all diabolical. But people are getting wise. They're getting wised up, which is great, and they're starting to recognize it's up to us. There's nobody coming to save us, Jeffrey. You know that. It's up to us.
It is.
It's always been up to us.
Right.
Well, this has been a pleasure. I appreciate your time today. I'm glad it worked out. I didn't know if my cell phone was going to hold this transmission or not, so I'm glad it worked out. And hopefully we'll get our internet back up. The beast will be back.
Well, thanks for having me. And I'd like to get you on too.
When it works out, it works out. Hopefully after this next week, we'll have some pretty important meetings going on up in Jacksonville. And if we'll have some good news to report. Very excited about where we're going.
All right.
Make Dr. Zelenko proud. Thank you, Jeffrey. Have a good weekend.
You too. God bless.
God bless you. What a super guy. I'm so glad I got to bring him on today because this is one man who came out of the intelligence world and he's now helping Americans organize locally to restore control. The system as it stands, it's not serving the American people. I mean, I think that's pretty obvious at this point. And we all know now the answer isn't waiting for Washington to fix itself because it's irredeemable. Washington, D.C. needs to that swamp is a sewer. President Trump was right. It just needs to be drained. Someone needs to pull that plug out of that. I said one time a long time ago on a show, I think 2017, DC needs an enema. It needs an enema and an exorcism. Someone needs to pull the plug. So it's happening now. I guess the local level is waking up. Your people are coming together in communities and the counties and in citizens who are willing to stand up, getting organized, taking responsibility for the future of this country. These are the things we need to do. This is where the shift is happening. That's where the power is returning. I guess the only question left is, what role are you going to play? On that, I want you to think about it over the weekend to have a great time. I won't be back till Tuesday. As I said, I'm in Jacksonville for meetings on Sunday and Monday. So wish me luck. God bless you all. God bless America and have a great weekend, everybody. Good night.
Food security or food sovereignty. Every time we buy food, we choose. Glyphosate exposure is exploding, and people are asking, why is food so expensive? This is why we do what we do. Organic fields, thriving orchards, the purest ingredients straight from the earth. From our farms to your family, we do the testing so you don't have to. You save time, you save money, and our regenerative farms continue to grow. It's time to remove what does not belong. Rebuild with cleaner inputs. Support the farmers with the future in mind. This isn't a trend. It's a shift. We still have a voice. We still have a choice to vote with our dollars for a healthier America today. Tap the link.
Are you ready to take your health back? At vandersteelhealth.com, I trust Purium's powerful superfoods to fuel my body with clean, plant-based nutrition. And in a world filled with toxins, Biomedic is designed to help support your body's natural detox process, even from glyphosate exposure. Real nutrition, targeted support, no junk. Go to vandersteelhealth.com and take control of your health today.